Welcome to the I-24 News National Security Podcast, in partnership with INSS, the Institute for National Security Studies. I'm your host, Nicole Zedeck. Each week, we bring you in-depth discussions with expert analysts on some of the most pressing national security challenges facing Israel today. So, let's get started. Today, we're turning our focus to the Gaza Strip, where Israel finds itself at a critical strategic crossroads. After more than a year of fighting, Hamas is still in control. And Israel is facing tough choices about how exactly to move forward. Should it pursue a full military occupation or work to establish a moderate Palestinian Authority? Or maybe work with U.S. President Donald Trump's vision and encourage voluntary migration? Or does Israel just continue managing the conflict as it is? Each option has significant risks and potential consequences, not just for Israel, but really for the entire region. In this episode, we'll examine the strategic alternatives Israel has when it comes to Gaza. We'll break down the military, political, and humanitarian considerations, as well as the role that Arab states might play in shaping the future of the Strip. Well, joining me to analyze these questions and much more is Dr. Ofer Guterman, a senior researcher at the INSS. Ofer, great to have you with us on the podcast today. Thanks for being with us. There's a lot that we're going to unpack during this episode, but first, I think it's important that we address the core problem, where we stand right now, because with this renewed operations that we're seeing the IDF take in the Gaza Strip, it does seem there is this balancing act. On the one hand, the desire to completely eliminate Hamas, but this right now comes with the cost of more of this long-term military occupation, or at least a prolonged conflict. So what is this balancing act that we're seeing?
So I think it touches the basic dilemma that Israel has since the beginning of the war. So on the one hand, you want to destroy completely Hamas, military and in all other aspects. And on the other hand, there are the costs of doing it. And so how do you do it? This is on the one hand. And also you have, nowadays, you have the, let's say, the implications of the Trump administration, which I think is, let's say, playing both sides. And it's not really clear what his real agenda is. So does he really give Israel the green light to take Gaza completely? I'm not sure of it. So I think this is a consideration that Israel has to take alongside the other, let's say, internal considerations, which one of them is, of course, what the occupation of Gaza would mean to the hostages, and what would it take in its cost in its economic toll. And also, we know it's not a secret that the reserves are tired. Not all of them, but there is this fatigue that needs to be taken into considerations. So a lot of considerations that Israel has to take.
There's this fatigue even inside Israeli society. In fact, the INSS, they recently published this week the Swords of Iron survey. It seems the public is divided on resuming to war or not. 57% say they support resuming combat. And so we're not seeing this equal divide, but still, it's a conflicting issue for even Israeli society.
Yeah, I believe that this fatigue you're talking among the Israeli society is not just a matter of, let's say, we are tired of fighting. It's also a matter of how the fighting is is being implemented, because politically the divisions came back, the political conflict has started yet again. And so people are asking, what are the real goals behind the agenda that the Israeli government is taking? So it's harder for a democratic society to support war where you are not really sure what are the goals, and does political or even personal considerations are contaminating the decision making behind this decision to resume the fighting.
And you talk about even the U.S. influence. You briefly touched on this, what the Trump administration wants to see, because we have seen a vocal statement and policy coming from the Trump administration that Hamas needs to be completely eliminated. But on the other hand, the Trump administration wants to see economic success in the Middle East, and that does not come with a prolonged conflict in Gaza. And so we are seeing this quote-unquote balancing act when it comes to even the United States and Washington's views on how to continue with this conflict.
Right. So I think, first of all, you're hearing different voices from the Trump administration, and the voices are changing over time. So it's hard to really say what is the agenda there. But I think that I agree that they want to see Hamas completely annihilated. But I think we heard different tones from Witkoff, the president's envoy to the region, that we want to see them militarily annihilated. So, and also even saying that basically they can see Hamas becoming part of a new
some sort of technocratic government perhaps.
If and when they disarm themselves. So if they are disarmed, then I think that if I understand correctly what Witkoff said, then is aiming for that purpose, so not annihilating them completely. And also, at the beginning, we heard that Trump declared it himself that he wants this voluntary migration. But then we heard, again, different tones. And I think that there's the Arab pressure there, that especially from the Gulf states, but not only, on the Trump administration not to go with this plan and seek other alternatives.
You talk about exactly all of these alternatives, these different approaches on how to handle Gaza right now. And so, Ofer, that's what I want us to do right now. I'm going to lay out some 4 options, really, that it seems maybe Israel, the Arab states, these international entities might be able to take when it comes to tackling the Gaza Strip. And you're going to break it down for us, starting with military occupation, because even today, as we are recording this episode of the podcast, we heard from Defense Minister Israel Katz that there is an expansion of the IDF operation inside the Gaza Strip. And with that, the goal right now of this expanded operation is to seize extensive territory. That's a quote, to add to Israel's security areas. So right now, military occupation from Israel's standpoint seems the option that Israel might be taking.
So again, I don't know if Israel really means it, or if Israel does mean it, will it go all the way? Because, as I said, there are those constraints we talked about. But if we talk about this option as, a whole alternative, then the basic point here is that we have to destroy Hamas. And there is no one else that can do the job. Arab states, with their suggestion, we'll talk about it in a few minutes, they don't really suggest a plan how to do it. I don't see the UN does it or the US does it, so it's only in the hands of Israel to do it. So that's the, let's say, the rationale behind this alternative, saying we need to take to occupy all of Gaza, and it will take a few years to destroy as much as we can of the infrastructures, the arms, the weapons, neutralize all the Hamas activists, and so on and so forth. So this is the rationale, but the question is it actionable? Is it doable? Can we achieve this goal?
And what will it take?
And what will it take? So I think that it's reasonable to assume that in a few months and then in a few years of cutting the grass of all the Hamas and all the other terror organizations in Gaza, we can succeed in a good way destroying them, but not completely. And so it's like the former Minister of Defense, Yoav Gallant, said that you can plow the field as much as you want, but if you don't grow something else in the place of the seeds, then...
Because of the ideology.
Because of the ideology, but not only ideology. I mean, Hamas is not an external force that occupied Gaza. It's rooted deep down. I mean, is working on not just ideology, but all of its infrastructures. He comes from Gaza. So that's why you can't root it out without planting something in it instead. So that's why I think you can only succeed to a certain extent, but if you don't complete it with a political solution, then you can maybe put Hamas aside for some time, but it will grow again.
Those roots are still there.
Because the roots are still there, and you can't really pull them out if you are not planting something instead.
So that brings me to another option then when we're talking about these alternatives for the Gaza Strip, that being the Palestinian Authority, or even some sort of moderate version of the Palestinian Authority. Is this a capable force of coming into Gaza and being that next seed, so to say, to be planted in the Gaza Strip and actually take control of the territory?
So I would divide it into two. I mean, there's the general suggestion of this political solution, a more moderate administration, Palestinian administration instead of Hamas, not necessarily the Palestinian Authority. Even the Egyptians' proposal is not putting the PA, the Palestinian Authority, there right at the first stage, but start with local bureaucrats, local Palestinian Gazans from Gaza, of course with the help of Arab states and the US and supervision of Israel. But after 6 months, they want the PA to come. And I think that this is not good enough, because the PA, Israel demands that the PA would take some reforms, some measures to fix itself with everything that has to do with the radicalization of, for example, of all its systems, mainly the education system and so on. It needs to recognize Israel as the home of the Jewish people. It has to take some steps in order for us to look at it as a good partner that we can trust to take control over Gaza. This is one thing. But even if we are talking about not the PA, but talking about locals, local Palestinians, still it's not good enough, because if you are not demilitarizing Gaza and you are not disarming Hamas, then what's the prospects of such an administration? So in a few months or years, or at the moment we will pull out, then Hamas will take over.
We're already seeing something very interesting even this week inside Gaza when you talk about these different clans, these different armed civilian groups inside Gaza that aren't Hamas, that aren't the PIJ. They're still now taking and fighting back against Hamas. There was an incident this week where some of these members actually publicly executed a Hamas operative who had killed one of the clan members who was waiting in line to buy a bag of flour. And so we're seeing some armed resistance, but is that a good alternative for Israel? Does this truly show the situation inside Gaza?
So, of course, this is not an alternative, but it does show you that Hamas can be pulled out, that it doesn't receive the 100% support of the Gazan population. So that's the half glass full. But of course, on the other side, they are not, peace activists and
certainly not good neighbors to Israel.
And not good neighbors. So you need something else. You need, and we do know that that Gaza still has a few thousands bureaucrats, many of them ex-Fatah members, and they can be the jumpstart to this new administration. But again, the prospects are very low if the Gaza Strip is not demilitarized.
So with that, I want to now touch on Donald Trump's proposal. Then we talked about military occupation of Israel. We talked about some sort of a technocratic Gazan governance. What about voluntary migration? What would it actually take to make some of the Palestinians who want to leave to go find a new life somewhere outside of the Gaza Strip? How likely and feasible is that?
So I think it's likely to assume, and there are some polls and experts that say that many of the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip would be happy to leave Gaza in the current state.
If given the chance.
Yeah. So, and in Israeli perspective, in Israeli eyes, looking at it, putting morals aside, of course, you can see the good side. I mean, what you can earn from Gaza Strip being without the Palestinians that makes all this trouble to Israel all these years. But you will have to ask yourself, what are the prospects again of this alternative also? So I will start with the moral issue because I think it's also an issue. I mean. I think that the Jewish state should ask itself, is it okay, is it not just remembering our past, but looking forward to the future? Is it good for us to encourage this kind of alternative of actually helping a whole of the population migrate from what they believe is their land?
Voluntary displacement. It comes with a major ethical dilemma.
So we call it voluntarily, but still you have to ask yourself, if you destroyed most of Gaza and if you actively encourage them to go out, is it really voluntarily? I believe that many in the world would see that as ethnic cleansing and not as, and it's not, I mean, regardless of what Israelis would believe. So we have this moral issue, which is an issue, but otherwise also you have other considerations. So let's say that, not a few, but half of the population want to go out. Still, you remain with 1 million Palestinians. So let's say even 2/3 want to go out. Still, you are with more than 500,000 Palestinians. So it really doesn't touch the problem in its roots and solve the strategic problem of Gaza. And also, I think that there are a lot of other considerations that I think reduce the likelihood of this alternative, because at the end of the day, I'm not sure that the Trump administration would give the green light to go all the way with this alternative, and we already see some signs because of the pressure from the Arab states that they have their leverages on the Trump administration.
If no one's going to accept them and take them in, this isn't a viable solution.
Right. Also, we didn't see any country. Of course, Arab states they see it as sentencing themselves for destruction if they agree to receive Palestinians. Other Muslim countries have already said they won't agree to that. I don't see Europe today in its state and all the migration problem receiving Palestinians, 1 million, 2 million Palestinians. I think also Donald Trump won't agree to 2 million Palestinians to migrate to the US. So what are you left with? Perhaps there is one or two, some failed states in Africa that would agree, but will the Palestinians on their own voluntarily will migrate there? I don't think so. So I think that the likelihood of this alternative is very low. And the bottom line is that even if we take morals aside and we trying to chase this strategy, at best it would be a complementary strategy. It can't be the main strategy.
They have to have these other approaches. Now,
right.
There is one more option also on the table, and that's just continuing with the status quo. Exactly what we're seeing right now, and these in and out operations to try and put a lid on the problem without truly tackling the problem. But this has been Israel's main objective for the past several years, and we saw it really come to light on October 7th. Continuing with the status quo, is this an option that Israel is likely to take?
I don't think that it's an option that Israel would willingly take, but I think it's a default option that can realistically manifest itself and will be the ultimate reality if the Israeli government would continue with, let's say, bad policy and wrong strategies. So in the case that that Israel will still chase the voluntarily migration as the main strategy, as the government has stated. This is their new strategy for the day after in the Gaza Strip. And if I'm right in saying that the likelihood of this happening is very low, then you're still in this stalemate, and nothing really happens, and you don't change the things on.
So then, what is your recommendation? We've talked about military occupation. We've talked about voluntary migration. We've talked about even some sort of a Palestinian Authority or Palestinian governance, or just continuing where we are. Ofer, what is the way that Israel should, if they have all of these options on the table, actually move forward?
So I think before we are saying what is the right strategy, I think we need to reset our thinking, the way we think on Gaza. And for too long now, we are chasing fantasies. And we have to switch it and not mix fantasies and dreams with real strategies. The way, serious states are doing their decision-making and craft their strategies. And we have a problem here. I think that if we make this switch, the real strategy is the same strategy that we had to take a year and a half ago, at the beginning of the war, which is combining the two arms. So both the military option or military fist and the political, let's say, fist or option. You have to combine it together in a synergy when the one hand is helping the other. So you're pressing Hamas all the time in order to destroy it, to kill the activists, to take all their weapons and so on and so forth. And this will buy you the time and the option to grow a new alternative, a moderate alternative. And at the same time, if you are chasing this new political alternative in Gaza, a more moderate one, it will help the military operations also, because you will give an horizon for the Gazans, for the Arab states, for everybody to pull together to help achieve this goal.
Otherwise, there's this vacuum in the Gaza Strip, and Hamas remains the default to fill that vacuum.
Exactly.
So it seems there are a lot of dilemmas still going forward then, Ofer.
Right, and I think also another point here is that we have to stop thinking unilaterally. We have to look at it as a multi-level problem that we have to enlarge the scope, the envelope. We need to do it together.
It's not just Israel and Gaza. It's the Arab states. It's the Abraham Accords. It's the United States. This is a global issue, and at least a regional issue at that needs all of these players involved.
Right, exactly. I think we achieved the point, we Israelis and the Palestinians achieved the point where we are no longer can sort our problems, just the two of us. We need others to help us, and those are mainly the Arab states. And at the same time, if we want to chase, enlarging the Abraham Accords and normalization with Saudi Arabia and integration in the region, we can do it without solving the Palestinian issue. So we have to combine it together, and again, it's combining the two hands, the regional solution and and settling the Palestinian issue together.
We need to combine these forces. Now, Ofer, we've been going very big picture here. We only have a few minutes left. I'm going to ask a quick rapid fire round, some quick questions, and you're going to give me the first answer that comes to your mind, if you can. All things that we've talked about, and the first one just being, what is the most realistic solution in your opinion? Is it military occupation, voluntary migration, or Palestinian Authority control?
I think the solution would be, at the end of the day, most likely that at the far future, it might be the Palestinian Authority, but it would have to be Palestinian administration with Israeli control over the security in Gaza.
And this is still in line with that question then. Out of those three feasible solutions, which is the best outcome for Israel?
The best outcome would be to annihilate Hamas capabilities and option to be a spoiler for resolving our issues with the Palestinian people and with the region and solving the Israeli-Arab conflict for good.
That is a big picture right there and a good
possible.
goal.
It seems far, but it is possible.
Well, off that note then, can Israel truly balance this military pressure with the political initiative, or will one always outweigh the other?
It can. Israel has to agree to things that it's not agreeing today, but also Arab states would have to take more steps than they take today because they are not really keen on tackling the real issues of how to reform the PA and how to press Hamas to disarm itself and so on. So both sides, I mean the Arab states and Israel, needs to come to terms to a middle ground on this issue, but it is possible this way, I think.
I think that's a message I want us to end on then, this message of hope and working together in the region, because it's not just an Israel-Palestinian problem, as you just mentioned. It truly is a regional problem that if all of these sides can work together, hopefully there is some sort of a way towards some sort of solution and peace here in the region. Let's hope for that.
Yeah, let's hope for that.
Dr. Ofer Guterman, it's great to have you on the podcast and gain your insight into the many options that are conflicting and all come with their own consequences, but we'll actually have to see exactly what does lead in the future. Thanks for being with us on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
That's all we have for this latest edition. If you do want to catch up on any of our past episodes, just search National Security Podcast on Spotify, and you can find us all there. Thanks for listening.